You're pathetic. I just married my coworker. My wife texted me at 2 a.m. from Las Vegas with a wedding photo, saying she was staying there forever. That drunken wedding accidentally exposed their plan to kill me for a $2 million life insurance payout. The espresso machine was making that grinding noise again, the one that sounded like a garbage disposal devouring a spoon. I'd been tinkering with it for 2 hours lying on my kitchen floor like a neighborhood mechanic when my phone lit up at 2:17 a.m. The text was from my wife, ABA. I just married my coworker, David. By the way, you're pathetic. I'm staying here permanently. Don't contact me. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have a small request. Please subscribe, like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these amazing Reddit stories. Below the text was a photo. ABA in a white dress that looked like it came off the rack of a Las Vegas chapel rental smiling next to David Morrison. The same David Morrison who had been just a friend for the last 6 months, the same David who had somehow managed to accompany her on what was supposed to be a girls' weekend in Las Vegas. I stared at the screen for a full minute, my brain processing the information like a computer with a corrupt hard drive. Then I replied with the only message that seemed appropriate. Great. And you know what, I meant it. After 15 years of marriage, after watching ABA transform from the ambitious marketing coordinator I'd fallen in love with to someone who complained about everything from my morning coffee ritual to the way I breathed while sleeping, this felt less like a betrayal and more like a get-out-of-jail-free card delivered by express mail. My name is Ian. I'm 39 years old, a senior IT specialist at Meridian Financial, and apparently now a single man. I have a mortgage, a budding bald spot, and a dark sense of humor that my future ex-wife always said would get me in trouble one day. Turned out she was right, just not in the way she expected. The first thing I did was laugh. Not a bitter laugh or a heartbroken sob, just a genuine guffaw that echoed in our suddenly very quiet house. Then I got to work. At 2:30 a.m., I logged into our joint bank accounts and transferred every last penny to my personal account. At 2:45, I canceled all our joint credit cards. At 3, I called our insurance company's 24-hour line and removed ABA from our health, car, and home policies. The customer service representative sounded bored until I explained the situation. So your wife texted you saying she married someone else? She asked, suddenly more interested. Yes, I have the wedding photo and everything. A lovely ceremony, I'm sure. Very Las Vegas. Sir, I have to ask, are you okay? Better than I've been in years. Honestly, at 3:15, I changed all the passwords for our streaming account's smart home system and the garage door opener. The locksmith would have to wait until morning, but I scheduled that too. When the automated system asked the reason for the emergency service call, I selected other and typed wife, ran off with coworker. Need to change the locks before she realizes she's broke. At 3:30, I called my lawyer's emergency line. Patricia Kelman had handled my business contracts for years, and I knew she'd appreciate the irony of the situation. Ian, do you know what time it is, Pat? I need to file for divorce. Like today? What happened? I read her the text and described the photo. There was a long pause. She really sent you a wedding photo with the chapel backdrop and the Elvis impersonator in the corner. God, Ian, I'm sorry. Don't be. I'm not. Can we also file for abandonment? Absolutely. Ian, document everything. Screenshots, bank records, you name it. At 4 a.m., I called my best friend Greg. He's an ex-cop turned private investigator, which means he has weird hours and a twisted sense of justice that matches mine. Dude, it's 4 in the morning. Greg, I need you to come over. Bring your camera and your laptop. What happened? I told him. When I finished, I could hear him getting dressed. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Don't do anything stupid before I get there. Too late. I already did something smart. When Greg arrived, he found me sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee, my laptop open, and a stack of printed documents. He's a big guy, 1.9 meters, with the build of the linebacker he used to be in college, but he moves with the quiet precision of someone who spent years stalking people who didn't want to be found. Show me the text, he said. I handed him my phone. He studied the photos, zooming in on details I hadn't noticed. David looked nervous, sweaty. ABA looked drunk. This is from the Little White Chapel, said Greg. See the background. I know that place. Cheap, fast, and they don't ask many questions. Is that good or bad for me? Good, very good, because David is still married. I almost choked on my coffee. What? David Morrison, right? He works at Pinnacle Marketing. I did a background check on him last year when my cousin was thinking about hiring him. He's married to Linda Morrison. They separated 8 months ago, but never filed for divorce. The room seemed to wobble slightly. So ABA just committed bigamy. Yes, and you have the evidence. Greg smiled, and it was not a nice expression. This just got a whole lot more interesting. We spent the next 2 hours documenting everything. Greg helped me file a police report for bigamy, sent David's information to the district attorney's office, and guided me through the process to secure all my assets. When the sun came up, I had a paper trail that would make an accountant cry tears of joy. At 6 a.m. my phone started to ring. ABA's number, I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again and again. You should probably answer, said Greg. But record it. I pressed the record button on my phone app and answered, oh my God, what did you do? My cards aren't working. And the hotel says we have to leave, and David is freaking out because his wife called him screaming, Linda, ABA, you sent me a text saying you married David. I believed you. Congratulations, by the way. It wasn't real. We were drunk. It was just for fun. How funny. The photo looked pretty real to me. White dress, chapel, the whole ensemble, very convincing. Ian, please, I need you to return the money. We are stranded. Stranded. But you said you were staying in Las Vegas permanently. I was just helping you commit to that decision. This isn't funny. You're right. It's hilarious. I hung up and looked at Greg, who was shaking his head in amazement. 15 years of marriage, and this is how it ends, I said, with a drunk wedding photo and a 2-word text response. What happens now? I stood up, stretched, and looked at the sunrise painting my neighborhood with golden and orange hues. For the first time in years, the future felt full of possibilities instead of obligations. Now the real fun begins. By 10 a.m. my phone had become a weapon of mass communication. Missed calls from ABA's mother, her sister, 3 of her coworkers, and someone who identified himself as David's lawyer in a voicemail that sounded more scared than professional. I was enjoying a quiet breakfast, some real eggs Benedict, something I'd never been able to do when ABA was around, because she claimed hollandaise sauce was basically a heart attack in a bowl. When the doorbell rang, I saw Officer Martinez from the local police department through the peephole. She was young, probably in her 20s, with the kind of serious expression that suggested she'd already heard some version of my story and wasn't quite sure what to think. Mr. Hart, I'm Officer Martinez. I understand you filed a complaint early this morning regarding your wife. Come in, officer. Coffee. She accepted the cup I offered and pulled out a small notebook. Sir, I have to tell you that this is one of the most unusual domestic situations I've encountered. In what sense? Well, for starters, your wife called the station an hour ago claiming that you have stolen all her money and abandoned her in Las Vegas. I almost laughed. Officer, would you like to see the text message she sent me at 2:17 this morning? I showed her my phone. Officer Martinez read the message, studied the photo, and raised an eyebrow. She sent you a photo of the wedding complete with her new husband, who, according to my friend's background check, is still married to someone else. You know Mr. Morrison. We've had some complaints about him before, domestic altercations with his legal wife. So you're saying Mrs. Hart committed bigamy? I'm saying Mrs. Hart sent me a text saying she married someone else and told me not to contact her. I took her at her word and acted accordingly. Officer Martinez took some notes and the bank accounts, joint accounts. I moved the money to my personal account after she informed me she would be staying in Las Vegas permanently. It seemed like the responsible thing to do. Sir, I have to ask, did you do this out of anger? I considered the question seriously. Officer, I did this out of relief. My wife just handed me a get-out-of-jail-free card and documented it with photographic evidence. It would be crazy not to take it. She finished her coffee and stood up. Mr. Hart, based on what I've seen here, you haven't committed any crime. Your wife, on the other hand, she shook her head. I suggest you keep documenting everything and maybe change your locks. Already scheduled. As soon as Officer Martinez left, my sister Maya called me. She's a family law lawyer in Chicago, 3 years younger than me, and possesses a legal mind as sharp as a razor that our parents always said was a waste on someone so nice. Ian, what the hell is going on? Mom called me crying about something ABA's mom told her about Las Vegas and bigamy, and Maya slowed down. Let me explain. I told her the whole timeline. There was a long silence when I finished. She really sent you a photo of the wedding. Why does everyone keep focusing on that part? Because it's crazy who does that. Apparently my future ex-wife. Okay, listen to me carefully. You did everything right, document everything. Keep recording conversations, and whatever you do, don't let her back in that house. And if she shows up, call the police. She abandoned the marital residence after informing you she had married someone else. In most states, that is grounds for immediate divorce for abandonment and adultery. Maya, can I ask you something? Sure. Am I a terrible person for being happy about this? There was a pause. Ian, I've seen you be miserable for years. ABA treated you like a roommate she barely tolerated. If this is what it took for you to recover your life, then no. You aren't terrible. You are lucky. At noon, the locksmith arrived. His name was Bob. He was probably 60 years old and had the weathered look of a man who had seen every domestic drama possible unfold in front of door locks. So your wife ran off to Las Vegas? He asked while installing new deadbolts. She married her coworker actually and sent me a photo. Bob stopped his drill. She sent you a photo of her wedding with another man. Yes. And you responded by changing the locks among other things. Bob resumed drilling. Son, in 30 years doing this job, I've seen a lot of stupid people do a lot of stupid things. But sending your husband a wedding photo with another man, that might be the most stupid thing. That's what I thought. Do you want me to install a security camera while I'm here? Actually, yes, that's a great idea. While Bob worked on the security system, I decided to check my email. Bad decision. ABA's mother had found my work address and had sent me a message that was a mix of emotional blackmail and legal threat. The subject said, "How could you do this to my daughter?" The email itself was a masterpiece of misplaced indignation. According to Mrs. Patterson, I was a heartless monster who had trapped her daughter in Las Vegas without money or resources. She demanded that I immediately restore ABA's access to our accounts and stop this childish tantrum. I forwarded the email to Maya with a note. Is it me, or does no one in ABA's family understand what I married someone else means? Maya's response came in minutes. Do they understand? They simply thought you would be too soft to do anything about it. They were wrong. At 2 p.m., David's legal wife showed up at my door. Linda Morrison was a small woman with short blonde hair and the kind of furious energy that made me step back immediately when I opened the door. She was holding a manila folder and looked like she hadn't slept in days. You are Ian Hart. Yes, ma'am. Your wife just ruined my life. I invited her in and made tea while she told me her story. Linda and David had been separated for 8 months, fighting over custody of their 2 children and the division of assets. They hadn't filed for divorce yet because David kept promising he would fix things. Then this morning I get a call from my lawyer saying David got married in Las Vegas, said Linda with a trembling voice, with your wife, while he is still married to me. I'm sorry, Linda. I had no idea David was married. He's been telling everyone we were divorced, even his coworkers. But we're not. We remain very much married, which makes what he did in Las Vegas a felony. She opened the manila folder and showed me copies of her marriage certificate separation agreement and a pile of text messages between her and David from last week. Look at this, she said, pointing to a message dated 3 days ago. He is asking me to reconcile, saying he loves me and wants to fix things. Then he goes to Las Vegas and marries your wife. Linda, I think our spouses just gave us both a gift. How do you see it? Well, you now have grounds for divorce for adultery and bigamy, and I have a wife who documented her own infidelity and abandonment. Linda stared at me for a moment, then began to laugh. It was a slightly hysterical sound, but genuine. You know what? You're right. David just made this the easiest divorce in history. We spent the next hour comparing notes and sharing evidence. Linda had photos of David's car in ABA's driveway from 2 months ago, something I had never known about. I had bank records showing David had been paying for hotel rooms and dinners with ABA for months. They have been planning this, said Linda. Look at these credit card statements. David has been buying jewelry, clothes, even paid for spa treatments. With what money? I thought they were separated. We have joint accounts. We had also. I closed them this morning after finding out about Las Vegas. At 4 p.m., my quiet afternoon was interrupted by the sound of someone pounding on my front door as if trying to knock it down. I checked the new security camera Bob had installed and saw David Morrison standing on my porch, red with anger and furious. I opened the door, but kept the security chain on. David, how was Las Vegas? You damn bastard. What did you do? I received your wife's text message and responded appropriately. Congratulations on the wedding, by the way. Lovely ceremony. This isn't funny, Ian. ABA is trapped in Las Vegas without money, and Linda emptied our accounts. Your accounts? I thought you were divorced. David's face got even redder. That is not the point. Actually, David, that is exactly the point. You see, when your wife, your real legal wife, found out you had committed bigamy, she decided to protect her assets. Smart woman. I want to talk to ABA. She is your wife now, David. Your problem, not mine. I started to close the door, but David put his foot in the gap. Don't you dare walk away from me, David. You are invading property. I suggest you remove your foot before I call the police. You can't do this. Actually, yes, I can. ABA texted me saying she had married you and was staying in Las Vegas permanently. I believed her. If that was a mistake, maybe you two should have thought about it before sending wedding photos to her husband. David finally moved his foot, and I closed the door. Through the security camera, I saw him pacing around my front yard for 10 minutes, talking frantically on his phone. Finally, he got in his car and drove away. Linda, who had witnessed the entire exchange from my living room window, shook her head. That man is having a total meltdown. Good, I said, he has earned it. At 6 p.m., Greg returned with a bottle of bourbon and a pile of legal documents. The divorce papers are filed, he announced. Abandonment, adultery, and irreconcilable differences. Your lawyer says it should be finalized in 60 days. What about the bigamy charges? That's where it gets interesting. The district attorney's office is very interested in David Morrison. Apparently, this isn't the first time he does something like this. What do you mean? He's been married 4 times. Ian. 4. And there are some doubts about whether he divorced correctly from wife number 2 before marrying wife number 3. I poured 3 glasses of bourbon, 1 for me, 1 for Greg, and 1 for Linda, who had decided to stay for moral support and legal strategy. So David is a serial bigamist? Asked Linda. It seems so, which means ABA chose a real winner. We raised our glasses in a toast. To stupid people who make stupid decisions, said Greg. And to the rest of us who benefit from their stupidity, added Linda. To new beginnings, I said. We drank, and for the first time in years I felt genuinely optimistic about the future. Outside, the sun was setting, painting my neighborhood with warm golden light. My phone vibrated with another call from ABA, which I ignored. Any crisis she was dealing with in Las Vegas was no longer my problem. Tomorrow I decided I was going to start living my life again. The next morning I woke up with 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. Apparently ABA had spent the night trying every possible way to contact me, even sending me messages via Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and even Venmo with 1-cent payment requests. That included increasingly desperate messages. My favorite was the Venmo request that said, for emergency taxi fare. Please, Ian. I'm sorry for everything. I rejected it and added a note. Congratulations on your marriage. Greg arrived at 8 a.m. with coffee and donuts, looking like a man with a plan. Good, this is what happened overnight, he said, spreading a folder of documents on my kitchen table. David and ABA are officially trapped in Las Vegas. The hotel kicked them out. David's credit cards are maxed out. And ABA has been calling everyone in her contact list begging for money. How do you know all this? Because David's legal wife Linda has been forwarding me every voicemail ABA left her. Listen to this one. Greg played a recording on his phone. ABA's voice was slurred and desperate. Linda, I know you hate me, but please, I need help. David has no money, and we can't come home. And Ian isn't answering his phone. I made a mistake. Okay. I was drunk and I was stupid, and now I'm trapped in this horrible city with your horrible husband, and I just want to go home. She called David horrible, I asked. It gets better. Listen to this one from 3 hours later. The second recording was even more pathetic. Linda, it's me again. David is being a complete jerk. He keeps blaming me for everything, saying it's my fault his cards aren't working and that his wife is divorcing him. I told him you were already divorcing, but he says it's not true. I don't understand what is going on. Please call me back. I started to feel pity for ABA. Almost there is more, said Greg. David has been calling his boss trying to get a salary advance, but here is the thing. His boss is Linda's brother. It can't be. Yes, it can be. And Linda's brother is not happy that his employee is committing bigamy with someone else's wife. David is probably going to lose his job. My phone rang. Maya, have you been on Facebook this morning? No, why? Check ABA's page right now. I opened Facebook and navigated to ABA's profile. Her most recent post from 6 a.m. was a long and rambling status update that read like a self-pity manifesto. To everyone asking what happened, yes, I made a mistake. Yes, I hurt people, but my husband has abandoned me in Las Vegas without money and without a way to return home. He closed our bank accounts, changed the locks on our house, and doesn't even talk to me. I know I was wrong, but this is cruel and vindictive. I just want to return home and fix things. Please share this so Ian sees it. Nightmare Vegas, drunk, marriage problems. Trapped in Vegas. The post had 67 comments, and they weren't sympathetic. Did she just admit she was unfaithful on social media? Asked Greg, reading over my shoulder. Looks like it, and she is asking people to share it. I scrolled through the comments. Most were from ABA's friends and coworkers and ranged from confused to openly hostile. Wait, you were unfaithful to Ian. What the hell, ABA? You married someone else, and you're surprised your husband changed the locks. Friend, you looked for it yourself. Ian is a good guy, you messed up big time. But the comment that made me laugh out loud was from my neighbor Mrs. Chun, who was 75 years old and apparently had no patience for drama. Young lady, you made your bed. Now lie in it in Las Vegas with your new husband. This is getting out of control. I said no, corrected Greg. This is getting good. Look at the times it has been shared. ABA's post had been shared 43 times, mainly by people adding their own comments. My coworker Janet had shared it with the comment, "When keeping it real goes wrong." My cousin in Denver had shared it with "Play stupid games, win stupid prizes." But the one that really caught my attention was from David's legal wife, Linda. She had shared ABA's post and had added, "This woman helped my husband commit bigamy. She knew he was married and didn't care. Now she is asking for sympathy because there are consequences for her actions. Some people need to learn that actions have results." Linda's post had been shared even more than ABA's original, and the comments were brutal. Homewrecker got what she deserved. Why would you marry someone else's husband and then be surprised when it explodes? Ian Hart is my hero for not putting up with this nonsense. I hope she enjoys her new life in Las Vegas. My phone vibrated with a text message from an unknown number. "I am David. We need to talk man to man." I showed the message to Greg, who smiled. "Oh, this should be good. Are you going to answer?" I typed back. "Great. Talk to your wife about whatever you need to discuss. You know ABA, the one you married." David's response was immediate. "Don't act smart. I'm trying to fix this. Fix what you married. Congratulations. I hope you are very happy together." It wasn't real. The photo seemed pretty real. The marriage certificate probably looks real too. The bigamy charges will definitely be real. There was a long pause before David's next message. "You are ruining both our lives for a stupid mistake." I showed the message to Greg, who was practically vibrating with joy. "Tell him he ruined his own life when he decided to marry someone else's wife," said Greg. But I had a better idea. I took a screenshot of David's messages and posted them on my own Facebook page with the caption, "Update. Apparently getting married in Las Vegas was just a stupid mistake, and I am ruining lives by taking my wife at her word when she said she had married someone else. Who knew believing your spouse could be so controversial?" The response was immediate and overwhelming. In an hour, my post had 200 likes and 90 comments, all supportive. "You are handling this with more elegance than I would have." ABA and David made their decision. Now they have to live with it. The audacity of these people is incredible. Stay strong, Ian. You deserve better. But the comment that made my day was from my high school English teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, who was now retired and apparently had a lot of time for social media. "Mr. Hart, in 40 years of teaching, I have learned that some people create their own problems and then blame everyone else when those problems have consequences. You are handling this situation with remarkable maturity and wisdom. Also, your use of the shrug emoji is perfect. A plus work. Even my old teacher was grading me on my divorce." At 2 p.m. things intensified when ABA posted a video. She was sitting in what seemed to be a hotel lobby in Las Vegas with dirty hair and smeared makeup. David was visible in the background, pacing and talking angrily on his phone. "Hello everyone," said ABA to the camera with a trembling voice. "I wanted to explain what really happened because people are getting the wrong idea. Yes, David and I got married, but it was just for fun. We were drunk and it seemed fun at the moment. We never wanted it to be real." She paused, wiping her nose with a tissue. "But when we woke up the next morning, Ian had already filed for divorce and taken all our money. He doesn't even talk to me. I have been trying to communicate with him for 2 days, but he has blocked my number and has changed the locks on our house. I don't even have a way to go home." The video continued for another 5 minutes with ABA alternating between self-pity and subtle accusations that I was being unreasonable and vindictive. "I know I made a mistake," she concluded. "But marriage is about forgiveness, right? It is about solving problems together." Instead, Ian simply threw 15 years away like they meant nothing. The video ended with ABA crying, begging people to share the post so I would see it and come to my senses. I watched the whole video twice, then called Maya. "Did you see ABA's video?" "Unfortunately, yes, Ian. She just admitted adultery and abandonment on camera. Basically, she is building your divorce case for you." That's what I thought. Should I respond? Absolutely not. Let her keep talking. Every word she says strengthens your position. But Greg had a different opinion. Dude, you have to respond. She is trying to control the narrative, make you look like the bad guy. You cannot allow that. What would I even say? The truth, simple, direct, and devastating. So I made my own video. I sat in my living room with a clean shirt and spoke in a calm and reasonable tone. Hello, everyone. I have been receiving many messages about ABA's videos, so I thought I should clarify some things. First, here is the text message I received at 2:17 a.m. 2 days ago. I held my phone showing ABA's original message and the wedding photo. As you can see, ABA informed me she had married her coworker David and that she would stay in Las Vegas permanently. She told me not to contact her, so I didn't. I believed her when she said she had married someone else and acted accordingly. I paused, letting that sink in. Now ABA says this was just a drunk mistake and that I should forgive her. But here's the thing. One does not accidentally get married. One does not accidentally put on a wedding dress, go to a chapel, exchange vows, and pose for photos. Those are decisions. Adult decisions with adult consequences. I held another document. This is a background check on David Morrison, ABA's new husband. It shows that David is still legally married to his previous wife, Linda, which means what happened in Las Vegas wasn't just adultery, it was bigamy, which is a felony in Nevada. I looked directly at the camera. I have been married to ABA for 15 years. In all that time, I was never unfaithful, I never lied about where I was going or with whom I was, and I never sent her photos of me with other women. I kept my vows. She didn't. And now she is asking for forgiveness while sitting next to the man she married. I stood up, walking towards the main window. ABA says I threw 15 years away like they meant nothing, but I didn't throw anything away. She did when she decided that David was more important than our marriage, when she decided that a weekend in Las Vegas was worth more than the life we built together. When she sent me a photo of herself in a wedding dress with another man, I turned towards the camera. I am no longer angry, I am not hurt, I am relieved, because after 15 years I finally know where I stand. And it is not next to someone who thinks marriage vows are suggestions and wedding photos are jokes. I finished the video with I wish ABA and David the best in their new life together in Las Vegas permanently, as they requested. The video went viral. In 6 hours it had been shared more than 1,000 times and had accumulated more than 500 comments. Local news stations picked it up. Someone created a hashtag Vegas divorce. My phone buzzed constantly with friend requests, interview requests, and messages of support from complete strangers. But the message that mattered most came from Linda Morrison. Ian, I just wanted to thank you. Your video gave me the courage to tell my own story. David has been lying to everyone for months, and I was too ashamed to say anything. Not anymore. We are in this together now, and we will ensure that both face the consequences of their decisions. I was no longer just getting divorced, I was leading a movement. The morning of the 4th day brought an unexpected visit. My mother-in-law, Patricia Patterson, standing at my newly secured door at 7 a.m. with a suitcase and the expression of a woman preparing for war. Ian, we need to talk. Good morning, Patricia. How was your flight from Phoenix? Don't get funny with me. Let me in. I opened the door, but didn't step aside. Actually, Patricia, I think we should talk out here. A beautiful morning, don't you think? Her face turned red. You aren't going to let me into the house I helped my daughter decorate. The house your daughter abandoned when she married someone else. No, I don't think it is appropriate. Patricia's voice rose to a pitch that could break wine glasses. She made a mistake. People make mistakes. You don't destroy a marriage for a stupid night. You are right, I said calmly. People make mistakes, like when they cheat on their spouse for months, then marry their lover in Las Vegas and send wedding photos to their husband. Those are definitely mistakes. She was drunk. Patricia, let me ask you something. If ABA had come home and told you she was drunk when she signed the mortgage documents, would you expect the bank to simply forget about that? That is different. In what way? She babbled for a moment, then took out her phone. Look at this, look at what you have done to her. She showed me a screenshot of a video call from ABA, who seemed to have been living in a bus station for a week. She had greasy hair, wrinkled clothes, and red eyes from crying. She is sleeping at the airport, Ian. At the airport, why don't you send her money so she returns home? She is not coming home, Patricia. She told me she was staying in Las Vegas permanently with her new husband. Stop saying that. It isn't real. I took out my phone and showed her the wedding photo again. Seems pretty real to me. White dress, chapel rings, the whole ensemble. Very convincing. Patricia stared at the photo, and for a moment her anger wavered. She really sent you this at 2:17 a.m. along with a message calling me pathetic and telling me not to contact her. "Oh, ABA," whispered Patricia, and suddenly, she seemed to have all her 68 years. "What were you thinking?" "I don't think she was thinking, Patricia. I think she was acting, and now she is dealing with the consequences." My mother-in-law sat heavily on the steps of my entrance. "Ian, please, I know she hurt you. I know this is terrible, but she is my daughter. I can't simply watch her suffer like this." "Patricia, I understand you want to help ABA, but I am no longer her husband. She made sure of that when she married David. If you want to send her money, send her money. If you want to buy her a plane ticket, buy her a plane ticket. But don't ask me to pretend this didn't happen. Where is she supposed to go? You changed the locks. She can go to David's place." "Oh wait, that is true. David's legal wife kicked him out and requested divorce. It is funny how that works." Patricia's phone rang. She looked at the screen and grimaced. "It is her," she said. "Answer." Patricia put the call on speaker. ABA's voice arrived weak and desperate. "Mom, are you there? Did you talk to him?" "I am here, honey. I am at the house." "Is he there? Can you put him on?" Patricia looked at me. I shook my head. "Honey, he doesn't want to talk right now. Mom, I am dying here. David is being a complete nightmare. He keeps saying all this is my fault and is talking about returning with his wife and begging her to accept him again. I am going to stay trapped here alone." "ABA," said Patricia softly. "Why did you send that photo to Ian?" There was a long pause. "I don't know. I was drunk and David said it would be fun. He said he would show Ian that I wasn't going to put up with his boring life anymore. You wanted to hurt him. I wanted him to fight for me." ABA's voice broke. "I wanted him to get jealous and come look for me and prove that he still cared." I leaned towards the phone. "Well, ABA, mission accomplished. I cared enough to believe you when you said you married someone else." "Ian." "Oh, thank God you are there. I am here to tell you that your mother is welcome to help you however she wants, but you and I are done. You married David, remember? Go be married to David. It isn't real. The marriage. It isn't real. Tell that to the state of Nevada and David's legal wife, who is pressing charges for bigamy. Ian, please." I hung up the call and looked at Patricia, who was looking at her phone as if it had bitten her. "She wanted you to fight for her," said Patricia softly. "For 15 years I fought for her every day. I fought for her when she wanted to quit her job and start a blog. I fought for her when she wanted to spend our vacation funds on a girls' trip to Europe. I fought for her when she decided she didn't want children, although I did. I fought for our marriage even when she stopped trying." I stood up and looked at my mother-in-law. "But I am not going to fight against another woman's husband for another woman's wife, because that is what she is now, Patricia. She is David's wife. She chose him. She married him. She sent me the photo to prove it. So now she has to live with that choice." Patricia picked up her bag and her suitcase. "What am I supposed to tell her?" "Tell her congratulations on her marriage and good luck in Las Vegas." "Ian, you are being cruel." "No, Patricia, I am being consistent. ABA made an adult decision and documented it with photographic evidence. I am treating her like the adult she claims to be." After Patricia left, I called Greg. "Dude, you aren't going to believe what just happened." I told him the conversation with Patricia and ABA. Greg stayed silent for a moment. "So ABA admits she did it to make you jealous?" "Yes. She wanted me to fight for her by marrying someone else apparently. And now she is shocked because you took her at her word." "Shocked and horrified." Greg laughed, but it wasn't completely pleasant. "Ian, I have some news. David has been calling all over the city trying to find a lawyer to represent him in the bigamy case. He got lucky. Nobody wants to touch him. Apparently, when you commit a crime and document it with wedding photos, it isn't a great legal position." "What about ABA?" "That is the interesting part. David has been telling people that everything was ABA's idea. He says she seduced him and convinced him to marry her." "What an elegant guy." "It gets better. Linda Morrison recorded a conversation she had with David yesterday. Do you want to hear it?" "Absolutely." Greg played the recording. David's voice was whining and defensive. "Linda, honey, you have to believe me. All this was ABA's idea. She got me drunk and dragged me to that chapel. I didn't want to do it, but she kept insisting and insisting. Do you know how persuasive she can be?" Linda's response was icy. "David, I have seen the photos. You seem pretty happy for someone who was being forced to marry. I was drunk. I didn't know what I was doing. Did you know enough to pose for photos and sign legal documents?" "Linda, please. I made a mistake, a stupid and huge mistake, but it isn't real. It doesn't mean anything. You are my real wife. You are who I love. David, I requested divorce yesterday, and I am going to press charges for bigamy. Whatever you had with me is over. You can't do this. I will lose my job. I will go to jail. You should have thought about that before marrying someone else. The recording ended with David begging and Linda hanging up on him. Wow, I said. So David is trying to put all the blame on ABA. And ABA is about to discover that her new husband is already trying to return with his old wife. This is going to get ugly. It is already ugly. The question is, how ugly is it going to get before it ends? I was about to find out. At 3 p.m. my doorbell rang again. This time it was two people I didn't recognize. A man of about 50 in a cheap suit and a woman my age with a notepad. Mr. Hart, I am Detective Wilson from the Fraud Division, and she is Assistant District Attorney Sarah Chun. We would like to ask you some questions about David Morrison and your wife. I invited them in and made coffee while they installed a small recording device on my kitchen table. Mr. Hart, started Detective Wilson. We understand that your wife and Mr. Morrison may have committed marriage fraud besides bigamy. Marriage fraud. Yes, we have been investigating Mr. Morrison for several months regarding insurance fraud and identity theft. Your wife's participation may have been part of a larger scheme. Ada opened a folder and showed me a pile of documents. Mr. Hart, did you know your wife had contracted a life insurance policy in your name 3 months ago? My blood froze. No, I didn't know. A $2 million policy with your wife as the sole beneficiary. She forged your signature on the application. She what? We believe Mr. Morrison convinced your wife to contract the policy as part of a plan to fake your death and collect the insurance money. The Las Vegas marriage was supposed to provide her with an alibi. She would be out of town when you died in an accident. I sat down heavily. You were telling me my wife was planning to kill me. We don't believe she was going to kill you personally, said Detective Wilson. But we believe Morrison would. He has done this before, Mr. Hart. Twice, both with married women who were having affairs with him. The room seemed to spin slightly. What happened with the other women? One is in prison for insurance fraud, the other is dead. Morrison killed her when she threatened to expose the scheme. Ada Chen leaned forward. Mr. Hart, when your wife sent you that wedding photo, she may have saved your life. Morrison was supposed to return to the city alone and organize your accident. Instead, both are trapped in Las Vegas without money and without a way to complete their plan. And now what happens? Now we arrest them both. We have enough evidence to accuse Morrison of conspiracy to commit murder and insurance fraud. Your wife will be accused as an accomplice. When? We have already coordinated with the Las Vegas Metro Police. They should be under custody in an hour. I looked at the 2 law enforcement agents sitting in my kitchen, then at the forged insurance documents, then at my phone with ABA's wedding photo still on the screen. Detective Wilson, can I ask you something? Of course, if ABA hadn't sent me that photo, if she had only had the affair silently and had returned home, I would be dead right now. Wilson and Chin exchanged looks. Probably, said Wilson. Morrison's timeline required his accident to happen this weekend. A car accident. Most likely your wife would have been in Las Vegas with a solid alibi and 2 million reasons to be sad about your death. I started laughing not because it was funny, but because it was so absurd I couldn't process it any other way. So my wife accidentally saved my life by being too stupid to keep her mouth shut about her own crimes. That is the essence, said Ada Chun. And now both will go to prison for a long time. I looked at the wedding photo on my phone one more time, then the forged insurance documents, then returned to the photo. You know what I said? I think I owe ABA a thank you card. The arrests happened at 6:47 p.m. Pacific time while ABA and David tried to register at a cheap motel on the outskirts of Las Vegas. According to the police report that Detective Wilson shared with me later, ABA was in the middle of a screaming argument with David about him abandoning her for his real wife when 6 officers surrounded them in the parking lot. The local news station obtained images of David being handcuffed while ABA collapsed dramatically against a police car, lamenting that everything was a misunderstanding. The reporter's voiceover was priceless. 2 Michigan residents were arrested today in relation to an elaborate insurance fraud scheme that, according to police, involved bigamy, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit murder. The suspects were detained while trying to register at a motel apparently stranded in Las Vegas after their alleged victim froze their assets. I watched the news coverage with Linda Morrison, who had come with a bottle of champagne and a grim smile. I can't believe I was married to a serial killer, she said, pouring 2 glasses. I can't believe I was married to someone stupid enough to document her own crimes and send the evidence to the intended victim. David must be furious with her right now. According to Detective Wilson, David has been blaming everything on ABA from the moment they put the handcuffs on him. He says she seduced him, forged the insurance documents, and forced him to marry her. Linda snorted. Sure, because David is such an innocent victim in all this. What is going to happen with your children? They stay with my parents for now. Honestly, they are better without David in their lives. The man they thought was their father was planning to murder people for insurance money. We sat in a comfortable silence for a while watching the replay of ABA's arrest on the news. She looked terrible, greasy hair, wrinkled clothes, the kind of desperate exhaustion that comes from 3 days living in airports and cheap hotels. Do you feel sorry for her? Asked Linda. I considered the question seriously. I feel sorry for the person I thought she was, but that person never existed. The real ABA was apparently willing to help murder me for millions of dollars. That is cold. That is reality. If she had been smarter, if she had kept the affair secret and had returned home from Las Vegas, as if nothing had happened, I would probably be dead right now. My phone vibrated with a call from Maya. Ian, I just saw the news. Are you okay? I am fine, better than fine. In fact, the reporter said ABA was involved in a murder plot. Apparently, she forged my signature on a life insurance policy, and then she was supposed to provide herself an alibi while David organized my accident. Jesus Christ, Ian. The funny part is she accidentally saved my life by being too dramatic to keep her mouth shut. How do you see it? If she had only been unfaithful silently and had returned home, David would have killed me this weekend, and they would have collected millions. Instead, she sent me a wedding photo. I froze all assets, and they were arrested before they could complete their plan. Maya stayed silent for a long moment. Ian, do you realize you were married to someone who was planning to have you murdered? Yes, I am processing it. And how are you processing it? With champagne and the knowledge that she is going to spend the next 20 years in prison. That is pretty healthy, considering. After Maya hung up, Linda and I ordered pizza and settled in to watch the evening news coverage. All local stations were covering the story, and it had become a trend on social media. The hashtag Vegas divorce had evolved to Vegas murder plot, and the internet was having fun. My favorite tweet was from a local comedian. Imagine being so bad at crime that you send photographic evidence of your conspiracy to the intended victim. That is why you don't plan murders drunk in Las Vegas. But the post that really moved me was from Mrs. Chun, my 75-year-old neighbor. I always said that ABA girl was no good. Ian Hart is lucky to have gotten rid of her. He is also lucky to be alive. Go with people's children, I swear. At 10 p.m., Detective Wilson called with an update. Morrison is talking, he said, trying to reach an agreement, giving information about his previous victims. What does he say about ABA? He claims she was the mastermind. Says she approached him with the plan, forged your signature, and convinced him to help kill you. And do you believe him? Not for a second. Morrison has been executing this scam for years. Your wife was just his latest victim, but she is not completely innocent either. She knew what she was getting into. What kind of sentence are we looking at for Morrison? Life imprisonment without parole. If we can prove he killed his previous victim for your wife, probably 15 to 20 years for conspiracy and fraud. And the bigamy charges, those are the least of his problems. Now, after Wilson hung up, I sat in my living room looking at the house I had shared with ABA for 8 years. Tomorrow, the process of selling it and moving to a new place would begin, a place without memories of a woman who apparently had been planning my murder while complaining about my morning coffee routine. Linda had fallen asleep on my sofa, exhausted by the emotional roller coaster of the past week. I covered her with a blanket and went to my computer to check my email. There were hundreds of messages, interview requests from journalists, support from friends and family, and a surprising number of messages from complete strangers who had followed the story on social media. But the email that caught my attention was from Patricia Patterson, ABA's mother. Ian, I don't know what to say. I just spoke to the police, and they told me what ABA was involved in. I can't believe my daughter did something like that. I raised her better than this. I am so sorry. I am so sorry for everything she put you through, and I am grateful you are safe. I know you probably never want to see me again, but I want you to know I don't blame you for any of this. You did everything right. ABA made her decisions, and now she has to live with them. I hope you can find some peace after all this, Patricia. I stared at the email for a long time. Then I responded with a brief reply. Patricia, thanks for the message. I don't blame you for ABA's choices. You are a good mother who raised a daughter who made bad decisions. That is not your fault. Take care, Ian. At midnight, I made a last check of the news coverage before going to bed. The story had become national. CNN was broadcasting a segment called The Las Vegas Marriage that exposed a murder plot. Fox News had a panel discussing social media and modern crime. Even international media were picking it up. I was no longer just a man whose wife had been unfaithful. I was the guy who accidentally thwarted his own murder by taking his wife's infidelity seriously. The irony did not escape me. While I prepared for bed, my phone vibrated with a last message. It was from Greg. Dude, do you realize you are probably going to receive movie offers, right? I responded, only if they let me play myself. What would you call the movie? I thought about it for a moment, then smiled as I wrote my response. Great. The next morning, I woke up with the sunlight entering through my bedroom windows and the sound of birds singing outside. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt genuinely happy. ABA was in jail facing decades of prison for trying to kill me. David was in jail facing life imprisonment for being a serial killer. I was alive, free, and about to start a completely new chapter of my life. I made coffee. Real coffee, not the decaffeinated nonsense ABA had insisted on. And I sat on my back terrace watching the sunrise paint my neighborhood in golden and pink tones. My phone was already buzzing with calls from reporters, but I ignored them. Today was not about interviews or statements or social media updates. Today was about being alive. Linda left the house around 8 a.m. looking rumpled but rested. How do you feel? She asked, accepting the cup of coffee I offered. Grateful, I said, grateful to be alive, grateful to be free, and grateful that ABA was too stupid to keep her mouth shut about her own crimes. What happens now? Now I sell this house, move to a new place, and start living my life again. And you the same. I think the children and I need a new start in a place where David cannot find us. A place where we can be normal. We sat in a comfortable silence. Two people who had gone through hell and somehow had come out intact on the other side. Linda, can I ask you something? Sure. Do you think they really would have gone ahead with that? The murder? Linda stayed silent for a long moment. David had already killed before. The police confirmed it. So yes, I think he would have killed you, and I think ABA would have let him as long as she obtained her money. That's what I thought. Does it bother you knowing how close you were? It should, I said. But honestly, I am just relieved that it is over. For 15 years, I felt something was wrong in my marriage, but I couldn't understand what. Now I know. My wife was a sociopath who was planning to murder me. That would definitely explain the marital problems. Both of us laughed, and it felt good. After a week of drama, revelations, and arrests, it felt good to simply laugh. At 10 a.m., Detective Wilson called with the final update I had been waiting for. Morrison confessed, he said. Full confession. 3 murders, multiple fraud schemes, and conspiracy to kill you. He is going away for good. What about ABA? She is trying to claim she didn't know Morrison was planning to kill you. Says she thought it was just insurance fraud, but we found text messages between them discussing the accident and how to make it look convincing. So she knew she knew. She faces 25 years to life imprisonment. Detective Wilson, thanks for everything. Thanks to you, Mr. Hart. Your cooperation made this case much easier to solve. And Mr. Hart, maybe you want to consider buying a lottery ticket. You are the luckiest man I have met. After Wilson hung up, I sat on my terrace for another hour processing the fact that my marriage had ended. My wife was going to prison for trying to kill me, and I was free to start over. At my 41 years, I was single, alive, and optimistic about the future for the first time in years. My phone vibrated with a text message from an unknown number. For a moment, I worried it could be ABA calling from jail, but when I opened it, I smiled. It was from Mrs. Chun, my neighbor. I am going to make pot roast tonight. You seem too skinny. Come at 6 and bring Linda if she is still there. That girl also needs a good meal. I replied, we will be there. Thanks. Good. I am proud of you. You handled all this mess like a gentleman. I looked at my backyard once more, then got up and went inside to start packing. I had a house to sell, a life to rebuild, and a future to wait for. And everything was because my wife had been too dramatic to commit the perfect crime. While I folded clothes and packed books, I found myself humming. I couldn't remember the last time I had hummed while doing chores. In the bedroom closet, I found a box of old photo albums. Photos of ABA and me from our wedding, our honeymoon, various anniversaries, and vacations. I looked at them, trying to see signs of the woman who had been planning my murder. But all I saw were photos of 2 people who had seemed happy at a given moment before everything went wrong. I closed the album and put the box in the donation pile. Someone else could have those memories. I was ready to create new ones. At 6 p.m., Linda and I crossed the street to Mrs. Chen's house. The pot roast was amazing. The conversation was warm and normal, and for a few hours I forgot about murder plots, bigamy, and insurance fraud. I simply enjoyed being alive and free and surrounded by good people. After dinner, Linda and I returned to my house. She was flying back to Chicago in the morning to start her new life with her children. "Ian, thanks," she said when we reached my front door. "Why?" "For being decent, for helping me overcome this, for showing me that not all men are like David." "Linda, thanks for the same, for showing me that not all women are like ABA." We hugged to say goodbye, and I saw her drive away in her car towards her hotel. Then I entered, served myself a glass of wine, and sat in my living room thinking about everything that had happened. 7 days ago, I had been a miserable married man tinkering with a broken espresso machine at 2 a.m. Tonight, I was a free man whose wife was in jail for trying to have him killed. It had been without a doubt the strangest week of my life, but also in a strange way the best. My phone vibrated one last time. A text message from Greg. "Dude, movie rights sold. A Hollywood producer wants to turn this into a thriller. They want to know if you would consult the script." I replied, "Only if they get the ending right." "What is the correct ending?" I thought about it for a moment. Then I smiled while writing my response. "The good guy wins. The bad guys go to jail, and everyone receives what they deserve. Even ABA, especially ABA, she wanted drama, excitement, and a life full of surprises. Well, 25 years in federal prison should be pretty dramatic." I put away my phone and finished my wine. Tomorrow, the process of selling the house and planning my move would begin. I would give interviews to the reporters who wanted to know how it felt to accidentally thwart my own murder. I would probably write a book about the whole experience, but tonight I just wanted to sit in the calm and appreciate the fact that I was alive. At 11 p.m., I prepared to go to bed. While brushing my teeth, I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. I seemed older than a week ago, but also somehow younger. The stress lines around my eyes were still there, but there was something different in my expression. I seemed like a man who had been given a second chance in life, because that was exactly what I was. I turned off the lights and went to bed, falling asleep quickly and without dreams for the first time in months. When I woke up the next morning, the first thing I did was check my phone to ensure that the past week hadn't been an elaborate nightmare, but there it was. ABA's original text message sent at 2:17 a.m. exactly 1 week ago. "I just married my coworker David. By the way, you're pathetic. I'm staying here permanently. Don't contact me." Below the wedding photo that had started it all. I looked at the photo one more time, then deleted the entire message thread. I no longer needed to save the evidence. The police had everything they needed. ABA and David were in jail where they belonged, and I was free to start over. I made coffee, checked the news coverage one last time, and then did something I hadn't done in years. I made plans for the future, real plans, exciting plans, plans that involved traveling and maybe going out with someone again, and definitely living in a place that didn't remind me of a woman who had tried to kill me. At 9 a.m., I called a real estate agent. At 10 a.m., I called a moving company. At 11 a.m., I called my boss and presented my 2 weeks' notice. At noon, I drove to the airport and bought a ticket to Seattle just because I had always wanted to see the Pacific Northwest, and now I could. The ticket was for next month after I finished selling the house and tying loose ends in Michigan. But for the first time in years, I had something to wait for. While I drove home from the airport, I passed the billboard advertising the Little White Chapel in Las Vegas. "Get married today," it proclaimed in bright and cheerful letters. I laughed and kept driving. I had learned my lesson about Las Vegas weddings, but I had also learned something more important. Sometimes the worst thing that can happen to you turns out to be the best thing that could have happened. ABA's betrayal had hurt. Her attempt to have me murdered had been shocking, but her stupidity in documenting both crimes and sending me the evidence that had saved my life and had given me my freedom. When I arrived at my entrance, I looked at the house I had shared with a woman who had been planning my murder and smiled. Tomorrow I would start packing my old life, but today I was just going to enjoy being alive, and that felt pretty great.